After the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Ms. Salcha? Here. Mr. Lindemann?
Here.
Dr. Gomez? Mr. Ramos? Mr. Bahrain?
Here. Do we have anybody that wants to address the board just on any item that's not on the agenda?
No, sir. Just the ones I gave you.
Everybody's for the item on the agenda. Okay. All right. Item 2, action items, discussion information on the aggregate expenditure limit and distribution of 301 performance pay plan monies. And I think the best way to do that is to have Mr. Soto first give a rendition of what the plan of the administration is to the board, and then we'll hear from those people that want to address the board specifically on the item, and that way they can refute, ask questions about what you said with your proposal to the board or how you plan to distribute those monies, okay? So why don't you give us the background on the 301 monies and where we are as of today, not only with the amounts of the monies, but what the recommendation of the administration is going to be, and then talk a little bit about the legislature, okay?
Okay. Do you want me to start, Anna? You want to? Okay.
No, you start, Mr. Soto.
Okay. Good afternoon, board members, board president. Again, 301 monies is mostly or 100% generated by sales taxes in the state. And it's every year it's a different amount, of course, depending on the sales tax and the generation of monies. The district gets those monies on a monthly basis. This year it's a little different, not in the way they're dispersing the money to us, but remember there was different pots of monies for 301, the 011, the 012, the 013, the 012 being the performance portion of it. Now it's up to the districts if we want to continue doing that, but it's going to be more complicated and more paperwork than if we just get it on in a lump sum or just keeping it on the 010 fund. We want to continue with having those kind of different pots of 40%, and 20%, 40% being one of the ones for performance that it's typically given at the end of the year. Also, it's been a practice of this district to give out a payment in December, which is, I mean, it's a practice that this district has taken for years. Not that it's the law, but it's a good thing to do for employees. This specific year, the state is giving an additional monies on top of what it should be for 301, which is $192 per student on top of what typically by law will get. And that's kind of like the one of the issues that are happening right now with the aggregate expenditure limit. That because of this money is now it's one of the factors. I'm not going to say that it's just the only factor, but there's other factors that affect that. But that now in the past, these 301 monies were not counting against the expenditure limit. Now they are. And that's why the majority of districts are just looking into, okay, I mean, yes, we have received these monies, and we have these months. We have 3 payments so far for 301 monies that we can distribute to the eligible employees. But I think it will be safe to kind of save that portion of the 301 monies. We'll just disburse it or give out what it's the normal allocation. And then just save that portion until legislature makes a decision on are they going to approve the over expenditures or not. Again, we're not going to know this until March. That's up to March when they have up to make that decision. And we want to be kind of prepared and have a contingency plan in case that happens. There's a lot of optimism saying that they're going to approve it. and mainly because of the big districts in the valley that are going to be deeply affected by this. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what 301 monies are. I don't know, Anna, if you want to add something.
Yes, so just to clarify, and Mr. Soto will get into, specific amounts and everything. So we will be giving out the normal December payment. It is a little bit more than what they got last year, I believe.
Correct.
And we feel confident that despite the rumors out there that the state legislature may have us cut our budget, and our portion for DUSD is $4.4 million. And if that doesn't get approved, then that's where we would have to adjust our budget by $4.4 million. Obviously, we're concerned because we won't know until March. But with the payments that we have, we're confident that if that were to happen in March, we still have time to develop further our contingency plan and see where we're going to be pulling from different sources, including maybe 301, maybe capital carryover to offset that $4.4 million. But what we have right now, we're confident that we can give to our qualifying members, and in this case, we have 209 staff. What Cesar was referring to as the extra portion, the $192, and this is what we, in talking and researching and talking to other superintendents and business managers, the recommendation is to set aside the $192 per student as a contingency plan. So we would not be utilizing this for this payout. We'd leave it for future payouts, and if nothing happens in March and we're good to go, the qualifying members would still get that $192 extra. So Mr. Soto has the figures. We plan on giving the 301 payout by December the
10th.
4th? The 10th?
The 10th.
The 10th. Giving teachers an opportunity to teachers and staff to change their exempt status if they wish to, so that they don't lose out on a lot of money by taxes. And then giving payroll time to process that payout. So, Mr. Soto, you want to share the amount?
Yeah, sure. Again, there's the projected numbers. Like I said, we already received 3 of those payments, but then we have to add whatever carryover we had last year. Because remember, when we do the payout in May, there's still a couple more months that we receive those 301 monies. So we're going to add that to the pot of money that we already received. And what Mrs. Amaniel was referring about, the $192, is going to generate a savings of $873,000 at the end of the year. That again, if this doesn't pass, then we have those monies plus the savings plus the other funds that we're going to have to kind of cover and finish up the year. Also, it's very important to know that the 301 monies are going to be reduced next year for sure, and it's because of this 192 in addition to. So we're going to see a hike this year, but then next year is going to go back to what it should be, unless the legislature does something about it. So again, going back to that, and separating, we have received so far $833,652 towards 301 monies. But by setting aside the 192 students addition, we end up with $615,000. Now, adding the carryover that we had last year, $740,000, we come with $1,355,592. Now, I'm getting only 60% of that because again, I'm saving the other 40% for the performance piece of it at the end of the year. So we only get to play with 60%. Then I have to take out benefits because we have to pay Social Security and Medicare and all of the benefits. So in total, we have $646,617.42 to distribute to the 209 eligible employees, giving them $3,093.86 on the payout per employee on December 10th. Any specific questions so far?
The board's already approved.
Correct.
Yeah, so So
And-
it's for information purposes and so that the staff
Okay.
knows what they're gonna be getting.
So the concern is how that money's going to be distributed and where the allocations are going to be made. I think the board's already approved, and I know I can speak for all board members, having worked with them and knowing them, that we always want them, the teachers, to get every bit of it, right?
Correct.
So we've approved that they get 100% because I think the law even changed that there's no more subdivisions in the statute that
Correct.
says that 20% for this, 20 for that, 40 for this, correct?
Correct.
So we've already said we want them to get every bit of it, right?
Yes, sir.
So what is the concern right now that the reason that we're meeting today, that you are going to bring the board up to speed as to what's going on and currently what the situation is? But we've already approved that they're going to get all the money.
Yep.
Yeah,
The
It sounds to,
concern-
it sounds to me like you're concerned, the administration's concerned about how to distribute it. Is that correct?
No, not necessarily. The concern was obviously the new information we received from the state. And in receiving that information and knowing that potentially we may lose 4.4 million was a discussion we had amongst the leadership team. We met with DEA and said, informed them of this new information. And so many school districts are looking at their 301 monies to decide whether they're going to withhold some of those monies or, save some of the capital money or carry over in the event that it goes up for a budget cut, a major budget cut, so that we could offset. So today, obviously, our staff was concerned that, that we wouldn't be giving out a payout or that we wouldn't, we'd have to do major budget cuts at this time. We don't have that information. So simply today was to lay it out so that the staff knows exactly. You're not approving anything today because you already approved it. So today's meeting is just for information with numbers, accuracy, and information to our staff and the board.
And before I refer to the board, then defer to them, there were some new positions that were added as far as the 301 monies were concerned as well, right?
Yes.
In
with
other
the
words, there's some new
changes.
people that are eligible for it?
Yes, before it was.
Why don't you tell the board about that so that they also know?
Yes. The new members that are included with the changes in the law are now to add some staff that is considered under student services. And so counselors being one, before counselors needed to have a teaching certificate, and those would be the ones that qualify. So we are now adding several more counselors without a teaching certificate because they fall under that category. And the other subgroup are nurses, certified nurses. And those are under student support services as well. And
Okay.
those are the only ones.
Okay, and then just for reaffirmation, does the administration, are you proposing at all that you're going to hold any of that money for capital or anything like that? Did I hear you say something?
The only portion that we're holding at this point is the additional monies that the state
The
gave us as
one-time.
a one-time additional monies. That's the portion that I'm just saving at the end, which again, if legislature approves and goes, then they're gonna get it at the end in the May payment. It's been a practice of this district to give out 100%, whatever amount of money we have on that fund, we distribute it to the qualified employees. So I'm just saving that portion for now until we know, let's just say March comes around and everything goes, and then I do calculations for the May payments. I understand that there's no mandate that I have to separate in the 40 and 40 and 20%, but the easiest way to do it is just doing so, at least the 40% for the performance. Because we need a base. I don't know if that's going to change. I don't know if the policy is going to change in depending on how the teachers qualify, if it's efficient, highly efficient, and stuff. So that's why I'm just kind of just doing the 60% calculation and leaving the 40% for the performance. But that's, again, we're not holding anything. Once March comes around and hopefully the legislature approves the over expenditure, then we're just going to disburse whatever
Okay.
we have in that fund.
Okay, great. Members of the board, questions or comments? Ms. Salchow? questions regarding anything? And then we're going to allow the people that have requested to address the board, we're going to allow them to do it.
Not at this time.
Mr. Lindeman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Soto, I was just wondering, the payout for December 10th for all qualified people are $3,093?
$3,093, correct?
And then generally, is that about the same in the spring payment? Generally?
Yeah, it
Give or take.
depends on how much money we have in the fund. Yes,
Okay.
correct.
But in this case, we don't know what the legislature is going to do.
Correct.
So I think it's prudent to make a contingency plan for that.
Okay, any other comments, members of the board, administration? All right, the first person that is requested to address the board is Joni Giacomino.
Greetings. I'm speaking to you today due to multiple concerns I have with the current situation. First of all, I just want to make a statement that perception is everything. We received an email, and I happened to come across it today, and it was very disturbing. Upon reading the email that was distributed by the district about the 301, I personally did not appreciate the insinuation that many of us are incapable of understanding the school budget. Again, perception. I found the comment rather condescending. There are many in this district that have complete grasp of the school budgeting and alternative choices that could be made instead of cutting pay. I also didn't appreciate the comment made about DEA information being a rumor as such, because the same information in the letter was the exact same information I received from DEA. I find it interesting that other districts are paying their first payment to their staff, then taking a wait-and-see approach as to whether or not the state will be raising the cap. Bisbee is one of those examples, and I know this for a fact because I spoke to the finance officer today. They made their first payment November 12th. Considering the state hasn't failed to raise the cap since 301's conception, it's very unlikely that they will begin this year. Making the first payment will not jeopardize the budget unless you're planning on only using 301 to bail out the budget. It's unfortunately that only a small group of employees that qualify for 301 are going to have to shoulder the burden of the possible budget deficit. It would be more logical and fair, I might add, that cuts are made straight across the board. Why is it that salaries are always the first to be cut and not supplies, training, etc.? If there is indeed needs to be cut, wouldn't it be logical to start at the very top of the salaries of all employee groups and include those into the mix? The other statement that was disturbing was a reference to 301 being extra money. The voters made the choice to have this money available to teachers to offset low pay that occurs in this state. Our state government has already tried to sabotage that increase. Is our district now following the same lockstep footstep as the illustrious state government? Have all avenues been traveling and finding alternative cuts if the cap is not raised? You made the statement, yes, they have. The schoolroom site fund, the classroom site fund is an extra fund and we can't depend on it as it changes year to year, was a statement in the letter. That's kind of a misleading statement to me, perception again. As long as the employee qualifies, they receive the payout. Granted, the amount varies each year, but the fact is it has not changed until now. The district may not depend on it for its salaries, as do many districts statewide, but there are many employees that depend on the money, especially this year. After such a trying time with the pandemic, emotionally, financially, and mentally, the thought of depriving those that qualify for the money is ludicrous, especially when the state does what it always does and lifts the cap. And yes, there is no guarantee that the state will lift the spending cap, but based on past years, the likelihood is that it will. Paying out the first installment in full will not offset the budget unless, as previously stated, you plan on using all 301 money for balancing the budget. Those monies were voted on by the people of Arizona because they were tired of public school monies being spent on everything else but teachers. How do you think the voters are feeling now? Again, perception, and that was my perception. Thank you.
Okay, and members of the board and the public as well, since the discussion and the addressing the board is on a specific item, the board can, and/or the administration especially, respond. So does the administration want to respond to anything that was said by Joni Giacomino regarding any comments she made? All right, then the next, I just want you to know that we can't have an open discussion because of the way it's agended. The next one is Marta Alonso.
afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board, Superintendent Samaniego, and members of the public. My name is Marta Alonso, and I speak on behalf of Douglas Education Association as their president. I would like to share with the board some of the concerns and questions that DEA received in response to a communication that DEA sent out on November 16th. The first trend seen in the responses was low morale. The second trend was concerns about district transparency, and the third trend mentioned fairness. Why cut the budget entirely on the backs of 301 eligible members? Since mid-October, DA has been in communication with our members about changes to Classroom Site Fund, known as Prop 301, and potential consequences for all school districts in Arizona if the constitutional aggregate expenditure limit is not raised by legislature. On November 15th, DEA met with Mr. Soto and Ms. Cox for a regularly scheduled meeting. At the meeting, the concerns and questions of our members prior to our communication were presented to both Ms. Cox and Mr. Soto. They were both transparent and forthcoming in answering our questions and clarifying the reasons for revising the 301 reports, the involvement of administrators, and performance pay. In addition, Mr. Soto informed us of the possibility of foregoing December payment in preparation for the budget cuts the expenditure limit may bring to our district. DA members are aware that budget cuts may be needed if the expenditure limit is not resolved by March 1st. We are also aware that 301 monies is not the only reason that our district budget would be over the revenue control limit for the 2021-22 school year. The three reasons that the Arizona Association of Schools Business Officers cited are: number one, 301 money is no longer exempt from the expenditure limitation. Two, the installment of district additional assistance over the past few years. And three, the expenditure limitation is based on the student count for last year. Due to COVID, the total student count for last year was low. And yet, DUSD is asking those eligible for 301 money to bear the burden of the whole district by forcing a payment, forgoing a payment that they have been counting on and notifying them only a couple weeks before. In comparison, Bisbee District has already given out the full December payout, and Sierra Vista District has not announced withholding any part of the December payment. If drastic budget cuts need to be made by the district, they should be made in public meetings with notice to the staff and community. Douglas Unified School District and this particular board has been very generous over the eligibility for 301 money for the last 20 years by providing 100% of the funds and ensuring that all of those who qualify are receiving their 301 funds. In summary, we ask that the DUSD board consider paying out the 301 payment in full as scheduled and across the bridge of the expenditure limitation with the same timing as other districts around the state in the spring when we have more information about what legislation is going to do. We have inquired and we have not heard of other districts keeping any of the funds. So thank you for your time.
Okay, members of the administration, any reaction to any of that? The next person that wants to address the board is Jesus Duarte.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me speak. Going to change what I was going to say now, having a little bit more information. But I did go back and was watching again the meeting from last time that we had about 2 weeks ago. And the biggest thing that comes to mind is that contingency plan that Mr. Borain talked about. It can't be something this late, and at the way it looked like it is punishing our heroes, our teachers. You know, I was looking back at Mrs. Samaniego's address of the district last year and highlighting our teachers, and for them to get this notice this late that they might not be getting this money, you know, we got to take care of our heroes. Mr. Soto mentioned about that he's keeping 40% of it. Mr. Borain mentioned that our teachers should get 100%. He's saying he's going to, out of the 1 million plus, he was going to take already 40% to save it for next year. And that's, I guess, in addition to the $192 that are coming from it. That's what I was getting. The 192 plus he's already keeping 40% of the million plus that we have going forward. And we still have payments coming for December all the way through the end of the fiscal year through next June. So that's a lot more money that they're keeping away from our teachers right now. So if he could explain that, maybe my math was off, and let us know exactly what they're getting. But contingency starts early in the budget cycle. We've known about what's going on at the state level since at least last February, last March. So it shouldn't be surprising when we hear these things happening. So let me know if I was wrong. Thank you for your time.
No, thanks, Chuy. Mr. Soto, I think just for
Clarification.
clarity, you need to clear up exactly what the administration is recommending to this board regarding the issue of that 40%. And again, and I always hate to be redundant, but I repeat myself because I'm a former teacher, and you got to keep repeating and repeating, especially when you have a class that's having a hard time. But our intention, the intention of the board, has always been, and I don't think it's in any way controverting anything you said, is that the teachers are going to get every bit of that money, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So so obviously there's a little bit of confusion, or maybe we're confused, but do you plan to keep that 40%? Because if you do, then you're going to bring it back to the board, and I don't know that there's going to be necessity for that, because I'm sure this board has always said
Yeah.
that we're going to give the teachers everything we can give them always.
The
right?
40% represents the performance
Pay.
part of it, the performance pay. Again, if you remember before, it's funds 011, 012, 013. December payout, it was always been 011 and 013, which is 40 and 20%, which is 60%. The other 40% that is Fund 012 is the performance payout in May. That's why I'm keeping that 40%, because now it's not separated. It's just a bunch of money on Fund 010. Then now I'm saying 40% of that is going to go to the performance payout in May. That's
So
what
we're not keeping it, Mr. Duarte. We're not taking the 40% and saving it to use it next year's budget. That's just the 40% that is always giving us performance pay.
Performance.
Okay? And yes, the teachers will be getting 100%. I wasn't at that meeting when Mr. Soto and Mrs. Cox met with DEA. I think I could have clarified some questions there, and we would have not had the concerns brought forth. It is our intention, and I said, the teachers work hard, and this is money that they depend on, and they're going to be getting it. The 192 one-time payout was just, it's not meant to be saved to use for next year's budget. It is meant to be given to them because, like DEA, they've been having communications. We've been talking to other school officials, and we're very confident that the state legislature is going to pass the over expenditure, and then all of this money will go to the teachers. So there was never an intention to keep the December payout. What happened is I came back from the superintendent's meeting along with other superintendents, and that was the conversation amongst Bisbee and Sierra Vista and every single one. Have you paid out the monies? What are you going to do? We put them in our salaries. We don't. And so I shared that with them, but I didn't attend that meeting, so I could have clarified that we didn't have an intention on keeping the December payout.
Okay. And members of the board, nothing so far? Ms. Salchow?
When did you first hear that we were going to need a contingency plan?
Denise and I attended a meeting in last month, November? October, last of October. And we get notifications from school finance and possibly this and possibly that and FYI, and look for this information, but it was really shared out and in more detail at the leadership conference, end of October.
Okay, Mr. Lindeman, do you have any comments before I call on the next person?
No, go ahead.
Okay, the next person is Hema, and I know, I saw the name. Hema, is Hema out there? Oh, okay. Good. Yeah, yeah, I know.
So I don't, okay, well. 301 monies have different types of representation of value for me as a teacher. There is, of course, the monetary value. By your own words of pride, you state that 301 monies go to the teachers. Or at least, as of now, that was true. But of course, there's been some misunderstandings. I understand that this district is under financial constraints and that the district is under financial constraints and rely on the money from the state to pay and keep the district running. I get that. But in the same understanding, you must understand that just as you are relying on state money to survive, we are relying on 301 money to survive. Both the district and the teachers were offered money, and now the teachers are being asked to give up our promised money. And yes, I understand that we are looking out for our students. I get that. I didn't become a teacher for the money. I didn't choose to work in the state ranked 46th in salary for educators because of all the money. And again, I didn't choose to work in DUSD because of the salary. I chose to work here because it is my home. I went to school here. Right here was my music room. Good teachers leave DUSD honestly because of pay and opportunities. Those of us who are staying here are because we love it here. We love the students. We love the atmosphere. It is our home. Then there is second value, our worth. As the saying goes, actions speak louder than words. I know for a fact that teachers are working harder than ever before. Yes, we have distance learning. Yes, we are having in-school learning. I get whiplash with how much things change from moment to moment. Trying to keep track of all the little nuances that is going on is crazy. Then add to that our normal pre-COVID teaching duties and responsibilities. But these are our actions we chose to do. But I'm telling you here, we worry also. Yes, our finances, yes, about our mental and physical health, but emotionally, we are drained. Let me share an incident that happened with you. 2 Fridays ago, there was an unexpected fire alarm at my school, Huber. Thankfully, it was a false alarm. But as I was putting my students, my kids, in order, I heard them worrying if there was a shooter out there. I had them calm down, but the fact that I had to calm them down is something that should never happen, but we do it because we choose to. I calmed them down, and as soon as we were back in class, on goes the day, as normal. But emotionally, how can that affect not anybody? The pain, the fear. Teachers are emotionally drained, tired, exhausted, and we are doing so many actions. So now I ask you, what is your action going to be? Are you going to take money away? What is your action going to tell us? Are we worth it? Thank you.
Thank you. Administration, any comments or reaction?
No, I want to reiterate that, again, there was no intention on our end of taking money, and we're not going to keep anything. Other districts do put it into salaries, do put it into health benefits. So DUSD is very fortunate to give 100% to our teachers. It is our intention they're going to be getting the payout, and I was just talking to Mr. Soto. If we were to give the whole amount that has been received up until now, including the 192 per student, that would equal to, what's that?
The total payment, 3,592.
So 3,592 would be the that other amount. So the $500 per se is what we are setting aside as the one time that we hope that they're going to get once March goes out. We do have the funding. The only reason that it's a set aside is part of a contingency plan. It's part of setting aside that money for that rainy day, which we're hopeful it's not going to happen, and then the teachers would get it all, plus whatever they're getting during their May payout. We can give out the $35.92.
Again, it will just, I mean, to be fiscally responsible, that's the recommendation that I'm making, just to have that contingency just in case. Again, it is not trying to hurt the teachers. I completely and totally agree that they're the best asset we have. But I mean, to be in my job is to be fiscally responsible to the district. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to take away that money. Again, it's just hoping that by March we'll have those good news, and then disperse all of the monies to the teachers like they deserve.
First of all, I want to clarify something. You keep using the word contingency. There's no such thing as contingency in school finance.
No, there's not.
They don't allow that word.
No.
Because it's tantamount to a slush fund.
Correct.
So there's no word in contingency. So don't, if you're thinking, and if that's your mindset that that's a contingency, you better put it out of your mind, because there is no contingency. And in other words, that shows that you're hoarding money, and then you're going to use it for whatever you want to later. So I want to. I appreciate. I didn't say that. I just want to clarify that the school district, no school district, can have a contingency fund.
Right.
Period. And because that in itself is devious, that you keep monies and you hoard money so that you don't have to expend it when times come. And so I know you don't have that, but don't use that word anymore. First of all, it's not in the statute, and it doesn't permit you to do it. Secondly, if this administration makes a recommendation to this board, which you've already done, and you talked about fiscal responsibility, and if you recommend that all that money be given, like Ms. Samaniego just said, we're all for it. If you think you can do it professionally and fiscally being responsible, we want you to give it to them. But if you make that recommendation, then it's going to fall on you. If you don't make it, then it's going to fall on you, not only with you, but with them, okay? So let's just make sure that, and I think that's the reason this is a good conversation today, because it gives an opportunity to clear the air with everything. So, well, first of all, let me go back to members of the board. Do you have anything else, any questions or comments do you want to make?
Not yet.
Mr. Lindeman?
Mr. President, it sounds like we're going to continue like always. You get your December payment, and then you get a payment in the spring, and nothing's going to mess that up. Now, if the state throws a monkey wrench in, that's a different story. But right now, I think we're just rolling right along like we always do.
Well,
That's my impression.
Yeah, and that's why this meeting was necessary, so that the administration, who is ultimately going to be responsible for whatever recommendation you make, this board's going to go along with it. But that's not to be interpreted that we're implying to you to keep the money or to give it to them. You make the recommendation, we're fine. We're fine with giving it all to them, all right? And giving it all to them whenever it's appropriate. So let me ask Martha to come back up there, because I think she's the mera, as they say, and you would be the spokesperson for the majority of the teachers. Does that assuage you, or does that alleviate any of your concerns, what you've heard today? Not from the board, because you know where the board stands, but from the administration, because apparently that's where the confusion is.
So I do want to make 2 points. We do have the information that was provided to us by Mr. Soto and Ms. Cox at our meeting, which was on a Monday, and we did provide the information on a Tuesday to our members of last week. And so the information we provided was what they provided to us. Now, if the information they had was not clear or not specific, we provide what we were told. Now, our concern is, and I know not everyone behind me has this, but you do in your memo, in your board packet, the recommendation that is being made is that we set aside a portion of the classroom site fund as a plan for the expenditure limit. That is specifically the last paragraph. And so we don't have numbers. This doesn't have numbers. This doesn't have percentages. But Mr. Soto's actual recommendation was that we set aside a portion of the classroom site, which is a one-time amount given this year, that will allow us to save some money of that funding. We don't know numbers. All I know, and I can tell my members, is what is provided to me in our meetings, what's provided to me physically in black and white, and that's what was provided to us. So we aren't confused, and we're not reacting to rumors. We are reacting to what was provided to us at a meeting and what was provided to me in writing. So if it's not, the conversation of saying 100% is being distributed is erroneous. I understand the 40-40-20. We know that's been removed. Mr. Soto did tell us that they would like to keep the 40% for performance pay. That is something that we've heard from other districts as well. We discussed that. They discussed performance pay. We discussed, if you're not aware, all the plans were returned to all the teachers, so that caused panic. Why are all the plans being returned? Why are they being revised? Ms. Cox told us about the reasons, and they were, like I said, very clear about it. But at the end of the day, we were told that the recommendation was to keep some of the funds for the possibility of the limit not being increased.
So ultimately, do you feel that with the conversation you heard from up here, that some of those fears that may have been caused by what you interpreted from that one paragraph have been allayed a little bit, so that
I understand the numbers now. Mr. Soto has provided us the numbers. The amount doesn't reflect prior estimates that he had projected, both here at the meeting and at actual board meetings projections that he has provided you, because I know you've asked multiple times, what's that amount going to be? So that's where we're confused with the amounts. Brita and I are trying to see that the amounts don't really add up to us. But again, we were never provided with numbers before. And so we're looking at the numbers and trying to determine, if that does. But again, our concern was this idea of, we understand that the expenditure report is a, something that's looming over us, but it's not new information. Like Mr. Duarte mentioned, legislation has had these bills out for a while. And so just hearing of it now, I think, was the shock that we need to think about it, and seeing it in his recommendation, that we need to consider the classroom fund. One of the budget funds we are considering is the classroom site fund. So it creates panic, because you're literally saying we're going to wait to see what happens in March. But you're telling us 2 weeks before the checks were supposed to come out. So a lot of people already made plans. A lot of people bought airplane tickets and, and other things. And so that was our concern, that it's being told to us 2 weeks before people were expected to get the payment.
Okay.
I don't know if that clarified your question or not. But.
No. I think that everybody needs, and people do appreciate it. I mean, everybody understands the system, right? They do what they think is best for the district at their level, right? And of course, you people have your interests, and you're rightfully so. You should, and you should always be interested in what's in the best interest of the staff. And they have to be interested, because they not only answer to you, but they answer to the board. And if they make a horrible mistake or a miscalculation and they come back, and then we're in dire straits, somebody over there is going to answer for it, right?
And I think one of the biggest issues is, and without using the word, that Mr. Soto was using prior, but planning a budget, I think the shock was, we haven't heard of it yet. The district hasn't mentioned anything about budget cuts being necessary. And all of a sudden, the only thing we hear is, well, we're going to save 301 in case we need to cut. And so it's only affecting 209 employees. I don't know, Ms. Cox, how many employees you have, but I'm going to go with 500 ish. And so you're only looking at affecting 200 of those employees. And of course, that caused a shock because we haven't heard. I mean, there might be other plans, but we haven't heard of any. We heard of this one. And so it was kind of like a targeted, plan rather than seeing a plan. We haven't been told anything by our administrators. We need to cut supplies. We need to cut, we haven't heard anything else except this particular announcement that 301 was being considered for a budget cut.
So in summary, you know that you can work with them. They know philosophically that this board has told them over and over and over, and in fact, when we approved it, that the teachers are going to get everything. They're going to get all the money. Even way back when we could hold in reserve certain amounts for certain things, and you're very familiar with that.
Yes, with the
but all of that
general
went away now, and you know that. So if they know how the board feels, it's already been approved. And so whatever they do administratively with you, I'm sure you can work it out with them. If you can't,
Oh, I agree. And like I said in my statement, Mr. Soto and Ms. Cox were very clear with us. They answered all of our questions. We left that meeting with, the understanding that this was the information we could share with our members. We didn't feel like they hadn't been, clear or transparent with us. They had told us what they knew. I think that feeling came from, why is it just the 301 being affected, and what are other parts of the budget? Who else is being affected by this? Because so far we only know that 301 fund is being affected by this potential budget expenditure limit.
Okay, good, thanks.
Thank you.
And the comment made by Hema Herman was well taken too. And, I know the administration does, and we appreciate them as well, but during the COVID, we were experiencing some very, very difficult times. Very difficult. It was hard for this board to make decisions, to be honest with you, especially when you hear it from everybody. But the people that really, really did the work and the ones that really were confronted with the malady and the situation were the teachers. And I can tell you, for that, we deeply appreciate you guys. And that's why I always say unequivocally that when this board deals with any benefit for the teachers, you're always going to get the benefit of the doubt from this board. And I can assure you of that, because I know how they feel, in not only with discussions with them here openly, but other discussions with them. So always be rest assured that that's going to happen. Now, when it comes to personnel issues and those kinds of things, we don't get involved. But so don't take that as an all-encompassing statement, right? But when it comes to things that this board can do, you're always going to get the benefit of the doubt, I can tell you. But we're not going to do it at sacrificing anything that the administration says, oh, we can't do it, then we're going to have to talk to them about it, all right? Okay, do you want to summarize, or do you want to wrap it up in any way, or where are you going to go with this now? You don't need an approval because you already got it.
Do you want to change the recommendation then?
I'm going to trust your financial expertise. You're the finance guy. I asked Mr. Soto. We had both amounts, like I explained earlier. We had the total amount including the 192, and we had the lesser amount excluding the 192. Not saying that we were going to keep that, just putting it as a set aside. And Mr. Soto, financially responsible, he says, okay, let's do the set aside. But in looking at the numbers, I just asked him, you feel confident that we can provide and give the full amounts we have received, which would total to $3,592.24 for the 209 staff members?
Correct.
And not keep the 192 set aside? And Mr. Soto, what is your...
So by not keeping that and just adding it to the pot, and then the payout will be $3,592.24, which, again, it's a little bit more work for me, but like you said, I mean, I understand that the teachers deserve. Yeah, no, it's not about the work. It's about.
You mean more work for Sonia? Go ahead.
Sure. To try to keep us in line with the expenditures and stuff. Again, we're gonna have more information. Hopefully not wait until March for the legislature to tell us. But I mean, it's manageable.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Because she's concerned that if you're not, then she's going to be the one.
Yes, so So this is I mean, it's not a recommendation, right? But this is what we'll do, because we did have both of those amounts, and of course, we are, by no means did we try to keep any money, try to say that we were devious. I said we have to be fiscally and financially responsible, and part of that responsibility, if Mr. Soto says we can, then you will be getting $3,592.24, which is the 100% that we have right now.
All right. Okay, members of the board, any questions, comments?
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate that this district is always financially responsible, and yet we do try and do everything we can for the teachers because we know that they're the ones that drive the train. So I appreciate all the teachers and always have. Thank you very much.
Okay. Does anybody else want to finish off any closing comments from members of the audience? Well, thank you, guys. Thank you for everything. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. All right. Now, can we move to reports from Denise? Because I think it's important that she gives us a report regarding the situation in the classrooms, which is getting to be a little concerning. You all got a copy of that?
So good afternoon. So what I want to share is COVID and the numbers going up.
I just got good news, and I just got.
So my concern is next week, right? So currently, we are at 49 student cases as of last week and 6 staff, okay? But I'm in constant communication with the health department, and they're also preparing for what may come next week. And so what I need to ask, and those of you that are here already know, and hopefully parents that are listening, if a student is sick, please keep them home. If a staff member is sick, please stay home. If you're getting tested, or students are getting tested, they need to report that immediately. So what we're seeing is a lot of parents are taking their kids to get tested and not letting us know until 5 days later. And then they come back and they say, oh, well, we knew last week, we just didn't report it. And so what's happening is that we're having to do contact tracing and having to sometimes close down classrooms because of possible exposure. My concern again is for the staff and for the kids. And so I really, really need to ask that if staff members or kids are sick, please, please stay home, okay? Get tested. Although we can't force anybody to get tested, we highly, highly recommend it. And if you're getting tested, please let us know, okay? Please let us know. So in preparing for next week, keep an eye out, listen if kids are saying, because that's happening also where kids are coming and saying, oh, but my parents said not to tell anybody, right? And so the concern is that it's spreading, and so that's a concern. And it's spreading with people who are vaccinated now. So booster shots, they're encouraging booster shots. Okay, and if the schools are telling parents or staff members don't come back to school until whatever date it is, please listen, okay? And parents also, if the school is saying they can't come back until a certain date, that they don't come back until that date. Not, I'm going to get them tested and return them to school the next day. Okay, so the numbers. In this semester, which isn't the semester yet, there have been 209 positive cases from August to now. And this is only students. Only students. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Members of the board, do you have any questions or comments regarding that? Ms. Salchow?
About how many staff members total?
I don't have those numbers. I as of right, but I'll get those to you.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
Denise.
I'll get those
But
to you.
staff cases right now active, we have six.
Six.
And 49 students.
Well, and that was as of last
As-
week.
uh-huh.
Today, we've had some additional. But what's happening is that as some come in, some go out.
Sure.
So it's fluid. Okay.
I check the dashboard each week to just see what it looks like, and I was talking with Alma earlier about how sometimes there's an overlap. You know, maybe somebody went out at the end of last week, or they were notified, or 2 weeks ago, and then they also count as this week. So sometimes you don't always get a total feel of, you know, I saw that 22 students from Douglas High School, and that was 3 weeks ago, and then 2 weeks ago was also at 22. That's such an odd, an interesting number to carry over from 1 week to the next. So I had questions. I appreciate the report. Thank you for the work for doing that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Samaniego, do you have any closing comments or anything?
No, just schools will be closed starting Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and district office will remain open on Wednesday.
Entertain a motion to adjourn
I move to adjourn.
by Mr. Lindeman,
Second.
by Ms. Salcha. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.